Hello. Thanks for tuning in to the New Name Task Force video about the process and outcomes around the work we've been doing to help our congregation find a new name. We put this video together to give you a solid sense of the process by which we've arrived at the names that we will vote on at the congregational meeting on June 6th. At the end of this video, we will talk about the options and invite your thoughts and feelings about them to be submitted in the weeks before the vote so that we can incorporate them into our presentation. So first, some background. Our task force is made up of Elizabeth Breeden, Debbie Norton, Bonnie Hansen, Sharon Utz, Sachin Mehta, and I, Haley Owens. We've been working since January to envision and lead a process through which our congregation will decide a new name. This process was not simply about the end result. It has been about building a stronger community that is more in line with the values that we seek to uphold, a community that can have difficult conversations with conflicting opinions and love, and a community that embraces change. This process builds on many years of thinking and work and the experience of those that came before to build a better future. This process has been rooted in a commitment to democratic values and deep inquiry. At each step of the way, there has been consultation and feedback from our board, our ministers, the congregation, and the involved committees. Since our name and vision for our congregation is so much more than just the removal of Thomas Jefferson's name, we've been working to envision what an appropriate name for us would be. Following loosely the design thinking process, we started by encouraging everyone to brainstorm possible names that felt appropriate for us. We held 12 different cottage conversations that engaged 54 adults to consider the elements that could be in our name. Children contributed their thoughts at a chapel worship service, and teens held their own conversations amongst themselves. We considered the importance of words like Unitarian Universalist, the organizational structure we identify with, like church, congregation, or circle, and the naming element, like a value, location, geographical location, or even an inspirational person. There are so many ways that we can be named, and we worked to create conversations that were rooted in the fun of brainstorming together the different ways we reflect our community. From this process, we came up with over 56 different potential names, ranging from Unitarian Universalists of Charlottesville to Tooth Jar Memory Church to Rivanna River Unitarian Universalist Congregation. These are only a few of the many creative names that we discussed and got excited about as a community. Of course, narrowing it down is an important part of the process, so we held an online survey to solicit feedback from as many people as possible.
The survey included every name submitted in the brainstorming. 54 names were voted on in the survey. 56, sorry. Almost 200 people voted using a weighted vote. A weighted vote is when you give 5 points for your favorite, 4 for your second. So everyone was allowed to vote for 5 names and give each of them a score from 5 to 1. That allowed each person to rank their preferences so that they chose. This vote was held online with the ability for friends or family to enter votes for those who did not have online capabilities. Children and youth had the right to vote. We felt 194 participants is a significant community response. We have 361 members in our congregation. We included the total number of people voting in our report so that you could see how many people voted for a single name out of the 194. The weighted score uses the ranking a person gives the name. These results show a huge difference between the first two, Unitarian Universalist of Charlottesville and Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charlottesville. And if you put them with the votes of all the rest, they far outnumber even all the rest combined. It is clear there are two major preferences: Unitarian Universalists at the beginning of our name and the place name of Charlottesville. Since Charlottesville Congregation of UU doesn't have UU at the beginning, as all the others do, we chose not to include it in our town hall discussions. We also decided to exclude the describing word fellowship. The term fellowship was employed intentionally by the American Unitarian Association during the 50s when they saw an opportunity to open congregations without a minister, and so they called them a fellowship. Some in our conversations also felt that fellowship is a gendered name. The first 5 names in the survey were chosen to center the town hall discussions, since they let us talk about the elements we favor in our name. The choices we were discussing might be thought of more simply as the name Unitarian Universalists of Charlottesville, or having a greater area like Central Virginia or Greater Charlottesville, or we also need to discuss what the descriptor, congregation or community, and so that's the things we talked about in the town hall.
Our largest town hall discussion regarding our new name occurred on a Sunday after the service and proved to be a very open and lively forum for members to share their views. We wanted everyone to come and share their feelings and be truly welcomed. It was really gratifying to hear people's comfort and willingness to share views different from others, and to witness the willingness to accept all points of view. It was particularly wonderful to hear people say that their minds had been changed by what they had heard. Participants were mindful of their time on the floor and keeping their thoughts concise and respectful, sharing and growing together. It's what community is all about, right? We shared the survey results and discussed them. Some expressed their disappointment that a more descriptive value term, seekers being the top choice, hadn't been chosen. The words summit and Rivanna were also noted as positive, but not receiving enough votes. It was good to take some time to hear points of view regarding these choices and really think them through. We heard some people say that they still had some interest in studying and valuing the work of Thomas Jefferson in relation to his writings on the Bible and thoughts on religion. Viewing the top choices, some remarked that they had already settled on the simplest version of the name, Unitarian Universalists of Charlottesville. Christine Gresser then shared her son Gray's point that this name might connote a feeling of exclusion, in that it seems to state that you must already be a practicing Unitarian Universalist to attend. He felt he couldn't attend a congregation with that name as someone who was not committed to the faith. Others agreed that they did not want to be unintentionally exclusionary and that it made sense to have an identifier like congregation give space to others that don't identify as UU. The word church, while appealing to some, was generally agreed to be too attached to Christianity. Fellowship was mentioned as another descriptor, and then it was shared that some felt the term too gendered. Congregation seemed to be more general and thus more acceptable. Karen Foley then presented information about the history of UU and Congregationalism, a connection that developed the ideas of parity and shared power and responsibility in the development of our faith, and how this history lends itself to adopting of the term congregation as something uniquely fitting and appropriate. It was agreed that having Unitarian Universalist at the beginning of the name makes sense for identifying who we are. It is the truest term for our mission and our emphasis. Everything we stand for is within these words and is laid out in the 7 or 8 principles of the faith. In terms of our geographical placement and a descriptive term for that, we had heard some suggestions for Greater Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Blue Ridge, Piedmont as different geographical markers that might feel more inclusive due to the wider ranging feels. It was agreed that this actually felt like a bit too much of an overreach, with the point made that there are already regional UU associations in the state and the region, and in the future, people might choose to create a smaller meeting of UU members in nearby communities. In the end, it was decided that we keep the geographical term as Charlottesville, since that is how we describe the area where we live, even though we know we have members from surrounding counties. There developed 2 versions of the Unitarian Universalist congregation form of our name, one in Charlottesville and one of Charlottesville. We agreed to further discuss these terms, in and of. It was interesting to witness the energy of the group shift together when our discussion had run its course. We were all in agreement that we had done the work we set out to do. Again, thank you everyone. It was a true honor to facilitate the discussion.
After a long process of input-seeking, conversations, and voting, our community has arrived at 3 names that we will choose from at the vote on June 6th. These names are 1. Unitarian Universalists of Charlottesville, 2. Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charlottesville, or 3. Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Charlottesville. As a quick recap of what we have heard around each name, Unitarian Universalists of Charlottesville has been liked by many for its simplicity, description, and the fact that it omits an organizational structure which seemed to some to make it more inclusive. Others, however, felt that this very omission of structure made the name feel more exclusive, feeling that only those who identify as Unitarian Universalists would be welcome here. The other 2 options both include the identifier congregation. Among the different names to describe our community, congregation has been the most popular in both the survey as well as the different conversations held. The key difference between the second and third options is the choice of the preposition in versus of. Though this might feel like a small difference, as Charlottesville emerged as a key element of our name, more nuanced conversations about it evolved. In felt to some like a more descriptive geographical term, while of felt to others as appropriate because we are of the city, springing from its unique historical location and ethos. We bring this to you to consider what feels right for you. We invite you to consider these names and submit your thoughts about these options to us at namechange@uucharlottesville.org. As a task force, we will be taking your notes and incorporating them into the presentation that we give on the process and names that will precede the comment period and vote on June 6th. Please remember that you will also have the opportunity to speak live at the congregational meeting as well, but we encourage you to send your thoughts in advance if possible. Thank you.